Part 1. The Girl They Forgot. They forgot me at Christmas. Not accidentally, not in the chaotic, oops, we left someone off the list kind of way. It was quiet. Intentional. Like my absence from their affection had become so normalized, it didn't even register anymore. Everyone had a gift. Beautifully wrapped. Tags with their names written in looping cursive. And me? I sat with my hands folded in my lap, watching ribbons fly, boxes tear open, and laughter echo across the room like I was just another piece of furniture. No one gasped. No one said, "Oh no, we forgot Celine." Because they didn't forget. They ignored. And that kind of silence cuts deeper than words. But I didn't cry, not this time. I didn't flinch. I didn't even try to smile because they didn't know something crucial, something they never cared enough to ask. That I had already given myself a gift, one they could never take back. The power to leave. My name is Celine Morris. I used to be their daughter, their sister, their placeholder at family dinners. Now, I'm the woman who disappeared. And this is how I left the house where love was conditional and silence was my only inheritance. I grew up invisible. Not dramatic, not rebellious, not even disappointing. Just unimportant. My brother Nathan was the golden child. Star quarterback, homecoming king, early acceptance to Stanford. My parents didn't just love him, they built shrines to his existence. Every hallway photo was of him. Every dinner conversation circled back to his latest win. He was the son they bragged about. I was the daughter they misplaced somewhere between laundry loads and PTA meetings. I don't remember my parents ever saying I wasn't enough. They didn't need to. At 10, Nathan got a brand new mountain bike for his birthday. I got a pair of socks. My mom said girls don't ride bikes anyway. But I did. I rode our neighbor's discarded pink Huffy with the peeling streamers and bent handlebars until the tires finally gave out. No one noticed. No one cared. When I was 13, Nathan brought home another straight-A report card. The whole family celebrated like he'd cured cancer. There was cake, balloons, a toast. I had straight A's too. No one asked. That was the moment I started practicing silence. I'd open my mouth at dinner and feel my words fall into some bottomless pit. I could have been shouting into the void for all they heard. Eventually, I stopped speaking unless absolutely necessary. Instead, I found other things that listened. Books, systems, things that made sense. Logic didn't require love. It just required precision. It didn't reject me or ask me to prove my worth. It just worked, reliably, every single time. I joined the tech club in high school, not because it was cool, but because it was mine. My own little sanctuary. While Nathan was getting endorsement letters and trophies, I was teaching myself Python and building basic AI models in the school library. But then came Thanksgiving. I call it the dinner from hell. My father stood up, holding a wine glass, and said, "To Nathan, visionary, entrepreneur, leader." He was launching a new business, and my parents had agreed to fully fund it. My mother beamed. Then she turned to me and said, "We just hope Celine finds something stable, maybe clerical work, something safe." My uncle laughed. "The deli down the street's always hiring." The whole table erupted in laughter. I didn't. Because that week, I had received a full-ride scholarship to one of the top tech programs in the country. Tuition, housing, stipend, all covered. I hadn't told them. Not because I was hiding it, but because deep down, I already knew it wouldn't matter to them. That was the night I decided, I will never ask these people for anything again. That's the end of part 1. Part 2. The fire beneath my silence. New York didn't welcome me. It swallowed me whole. I arrived with a scholarship, a single suitcase, and the kind of ache that doesn't leave bruises but lives in your bones. My dorm was a glorified closet that smelled like mildew and cheap detergent. The walls were thin. On my first night, someone in the hallway threw up and another cranked EDM until 3 a.m. I lay there on a mattress that wasn't mine, hugging a secondhand pillow, and cried without making a sound. It wasn't the dream. It was the grind. But the grind was exactly what I needed. During the day, I sat in lecture halls absorbing algorithms and network structures like gospel. At night, I cleaned hotel bathrooms for minimum wage. On weekends, I tutored underclassmen in JavaScript or debugged laptops for $20 a pop. No parties, no dating, just code and coffee and survival. My classmates had backup plans, parents they could call, safety nets waiting back home. I had none. My net was made of grit, caffeine, and the kind of hunger that comes from being overlooked your whole life. I didn't want to be good. I needed to be undeniable. By junior year, I'd clawed my way into an internship at a cybersecurity firm downtown. It was all glass walls and men in pressed shirts with last names that ended in high 3. I was the only woman on the floor. The only person under 30. The only one without family connections or a legacy hire badge. And I made damn sure no one could question why I was there. I never asked for help. I stayed late, Googled what I didn't know, and volunteered for the grunt work no one else wanted. When one of the firm's networks was compromised, I identified the breach vector in 48 hours. When a banking client needed emergency patching over Christmas break, I was the only one who didn't mind skipping the holiday. I wasn't trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was building my own. They started noticing. By senior year, they offered me a part-time position to stay on while I finished school. I accepted and moved out of the dorms into a Brooklyn apartment with 2 other women scraping by just like me. The place was falling apart. Radiator clanged like a demon in the walls, and the bathroom sink needed plunging every other week. But it was ours. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Not because I was born into it, but because I'd earned it. I graduated with honors, 0 debt, and no one in the crowd except my roommates, who stood waving a pizza box with my name scrawled across it in Sharpie. Go sell and Dine. Build the damn thing! And I did. I took the firm's full-time offer and went all in. I wasn't just doing the job, I was redefining it. When a major European bank was hit by a malware strain no one could trace, I built the patch. When a government agency needed a custom defense suite, I designed it from scratch. By 28, I was pulling in 6 figures. By 30, I was leading projects. By 31, I signed a licensing deal that earned me a bonus large enough to make my bank account question its own existence. And still, I didn't call home. Not because I was petty, but because I knew it wouldn't matter. They hadn't asked about me in years. Not one birthday card. Not a single text when I graduated. No voicemail when my name appeared in a cybersecurity journal. They hadn't gone silent because they were hurt. They were silent because they didn't care. So I gave them the same in return. Instead, I bought a condo in Boston. 2 bedrooms. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist everything. The kind of place that felt like breathing room. I moved in mid-December, a week before Christmas. My friends came over with Thai food and cheap red wine. We sat on the hardwood floor in our coats, laughing like survivors. Lisa, my loudest, fiercest friend, raised her glass. To Celine, the quiet one who roared. I smiled, not because I needed the applause, but because I finally knew I deserved it. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Rachel. Someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly 10 years. Your mom wants to know if you're coming home for Christmas. That was it. No, we miss you. No, how have you been? Just a summons. I showed the message to Lisa. You going? I didn't answer right away. Later that night, standing at the window with the skyline blinking back at me like a heartbeat, I whispered the truth to the glass. I think I have to. Not for them, for me. I needed to see it. The place I left. The people I once begged to notice me. I needed to confirm, to their faces and to myself, that the girl who walked away was never coming back. That concludes part 2, Rage. Part 3. Maybe this time. The morning I drove back to Massachusetts, the sky was the color of unfinished thoughts. Soft gray, barely breathing. There was mist curling at the edges of the highway, blurring the trees like a memory I hadn't made peace with yet. 6 hours on the road, and my mind was louder than the engine. What would I say? What would they say? Would anyone say anything that mattered? But underneath all that noise was something I hadn't felt in a long time. A quiet, impossible flicker. Hope. Not hope that they'd changed, not really. But maybe, just maybe they'd notice this time. Maybe my success had earned me a seat at the table. Maybe now I'd come back not as the forgotten daughter, but as someone they couldn't ignore. Maybe I was strong enough to stand in that house and not crumble. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling. The gutters drooped like tired shoulders. Weeds clawed through the cracks in the driveway. The plastic Santa still sat on the roof, deflated and lopsided, missing one black boot. Like he'd given up somewhere around 2009. I stood on the porch with my overnight bag in one hand and a tin of gourmet cookies in the other, bought out of obligation, not affection. My finger hovered over the doorbell. Too long. I pressed it anyway. The chime sounded tired. My mother opened the door. Her expression froze somewhere between surprise and calculation. "Well," she said, "you look different." "I am." She gave me a one-armed hug that lasted just long enough to be called a hug, then led me inside. The house smelled the same. Lemon polish, old upholstery, and something else. Something like dust settling on forgotten years. My chest tightened. Not from sadness, from recognition. This was the place I used to shrink in. The living room was full. Cousins I hadn't seen in a decade, uncles nursing beers, aunts clutching wine glasses with forced cheer. The conversation dimmed as I walked in, and then came his voice booming from the kitchen. "Hey, look who's here!" Nathan. Of course, he came out grinning like a game show host, one arm slung over his wife's shoulder, the other gesturing to her pregnant belly. "Everyone, this is Mia. Your future niece or nephew's in there," he said, patting her stomach like a proud farmhand. Polite applause, forced smiles. I nodded. "Congratulations." "So," he said, tilting his head, "still doing, computers?" "I work in cybersecurity," I replied. "Enterprise-level AI defense." He let out a long whistle. "Wow. Still doing the techie basement thing, huh?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Dinner was announced by my mother, clapping her hands together like she was hosting a reality show. I was seated at the end of the table, by the kitchen door, half in the hallway. My name card was handwritten on a post-it. Nathan, of course, sat at the center, explaining his new media architecture startup, stringing together buzzwords like pearls on a thread of arrogance. "I just need the capital to launch," he said. $200,000 should get us rolling." My father nodded. "We'll figure something out." My mother beamed. "Family helps family." I chewed my turkey. It was dry. After dinner, my mom handed me a scratchy blanket and gestured to the couch. "Your old room's Grant's office now, honey. Hope you don't mind." Of course it was. I lay there under the flickering hallway light, listening to their laughter upstairs. I didn't cry, I just stared at the ceiling, counting the hairline cracks, wondering how many of them had always been there. Christmas morning felt like a commercial. Paper flying, squeals from Mia and Nathan, oohs and ahs at designer bags and expensive gadgets. I watched quietly as they opened the gifts I'd brought, hand-picked, wrapped in thick paper with handwritten notes on each tag. Then it was my turn. Except it wasn't. "Oh no, but my mom said far too loudly. "Celine, we completely forgot." Nathan laughed. "Just like the good old days. Don't cry this time, sis." And something in me, something tender and tired and 8 years old, went still. Not angry, not hurt, just still. I reached into my purse and pulled out my keys. The steel glinted in the light like a blade. "What's that?" my dad asked. "The keys to my apartment," I said. 2-bedroom condo in Boston, hardwood floors, built-in smart security system. Fully paid off. The room went silent. "You bought an apartment?" My mother blinked. "With what money?" "My job. My company licensed a security framework I built. The bonus was $160,000 after taxes." Forks hovered midair. Nathan's jaw twitched. Mia stopped smiling. My dad leaned forward. "You've been making that kind of money for years?" My mother's voice softened. Sweet, syrupy, practiced. "Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you." For a moment, I almost laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I stood. "I should pack. Got a long drive back." They protested. My mother begged me to stay for brunch. My father said we hadn't even talked about my exciting career. Nathan made some joke about tech people being weirdly sensitive, but I had seen enough. They'd shown me everything I needed to know, that nothing had changed, that I could hand them the stars and they'd still complain the light was too bright. Still, when my dad called me into the living room one last time, I went. He stood with his arms crossed, my mother by his side, Nathan and Mia too, like a little army of ghosts from my past. "Before you go," my father began, "we wanted to talk about something important." Nathan stepped forward, all charm and calculation. "This startup I'm building, it's really close to taking off. Just needs a little push. Capital, mostly." I tilted my head. "How much?" "200 grand, he said, like it was pocket change. "With what you're making, it's nothing." And just like that, I understood why I'd been invited. Why they'd remembered me, why the fake hugs and the dinner invitation and the couch and the empty gift box. Not love. Leverage. "No," I said. It landed like a gunshot. "What do you mean, no?" My mother blinked. "I mean, I'm not giving you $200,000. Or 2 cents. "But we're family," my dad argued. I laughed, soft, bitter. "You mean now we're family?" Silence. "Where was that family?" I asked. "When I begged for help with textbook money and you told me to take out loans? When you turned my bedroom into an office before I even moved out? When you told me I could sleep on the couch while Nathan got a car and a tuition check?" "That was different," my mother said. "Things were tight back then." "Not tight for Nathan," I snapped. "He showed promise," she replied too quickly. Then winced. "You mean I wasn't worth the risk?" "Unbelievable," Nathan said. "You make it big and suddenly think you're better than us." "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I think I'm done pretending we were ever equal." My mother's voice went high and sharp. "After all we've done for you." "For me?" I whispered. "You mean tolerating me while worshiping him, forgetting me every holiday and pretending it was some innocent slip?" "You had a roof, food, parenting," she snapped. "Not parenting," I said. "Conditioning. Silence. Shame." I picked up my bag and turned toward the door. "Don't walk out like this," my father yelled. "We're trying to build something here." "You already did," I replied. "You built a hierarchy, and I stopped climbing it." I stepped outside into the December air, cold and honest. They shouted after me, words like regret, forgiveness, family. None of it mattered anymore. That concludes Part 3, Hope. Part 4, When the Silence Ends. The cold followed me all the way back to Boston, but it wasn't the wind outside that chilled me. It was the silence. The kind of silence that echoes even when the city's humming outside your window. The kind that creeps under your skin and whispers, what if they were right? By the time I hit the highway, my phone had started buzzing. First a call from my mother, then from a blocked number I knew had to be my father. Missed calls, voicemails, messages from numbers I hadn't saved but recognized instantly. Cousins, aunts, old family friends. At a gas station just past the state line, I scrolled through them like reading eulogies from a life I didn't want back. You're being dramatic. This is what money does to people. Family is everything. You could have at least talked to them. Wow, koretai, cold. That word kept echoing. Not brave, not clear. Cold. Maybe I was. Or maybe I just run out of heat for people who'd only ever warmed their hands by burning me. I blocked every number, except one. My cousin. Younger than me by 4 years. The only one who ever really saw me growing up. The only one who asked if I was okay when no one else noticed I'd stopped speaking at dinner. When I walked into my apartment, the air was still. The skyline blinked gently through my windows like it was breathing for me. I poured a glass of wine and stood there in the quiet. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Mom says you refuse to help, that you've changed. I stared at it. Good, I replied. Maybe now they'll stop pretending I ever owed them anything. She sent back a heart emoji. That was it. No pity, no guilt, just understanding. And I realized then I didn't need all of them to get it. I just needed one person who did. The next few days passed in a strange blur. I went to work, I led meetings, I submitted code, I smiled in elevators and pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was unraveling. Not because I wanted to go back, but because it hurt that it never really existed to begin with. The illusion I'd clung to that one day, maybe they'd change, had finally shattered. And when illusions die, they don't go quietly. They drag every part of your past down with them. I had spent so long building myself into someone successful, respectable, untouchable, just so they'd finally see me. And when they did, they didn't want to know me. They wanted to use me. That was the heartbreak. Not that they forgot my Christmas gift, but that even my success, my strength, was only ever seen as a resource, a bank account, a tool, not a person. I used to think the worst thing was being invisible, but no, the worst thing is being visible for the wrong reasons. They didn't want me. They wanted my value. And once I said no, they turned on me like I'd betrayed them, like love was a loan I had defaulted on. Sarah called me a week later. They're telling everyone you abandoned the family. I laughed, not bitterly, not angrily, just with disbelief. I didn't abandon them, I said. I just stopped pretending I was ever part of them. There was a pause, then she whispered, I know. That night I lay in bed and remembered every holiday where I sat quietly, pretending not to notice the missing gift or the inside jokes I wasn't part of. Every family photo where I stood on the edge, like a placeholder. And for the first time in years, I let myself grieve. Not them, but the hope I had clung to. The hope that someday, maybe, if I just achieved enough, became enough, they'd want me. But they didn't. And the truth is, they never had. The girl I used to be, who stayed silent, who tried harder, who smiled through erasure, she died on that couch Christmas morning. And the woman who left? She was finally burying the body. That concludes Part 4, Heartbreak. Part 5, The Life I Choose. 7 months have passed since that Christmas morning. 7 months since I stood in my childhood home and watched the people who raised me ask for money with the same mouths that once forgot my name. 7 months since I said no and meant it. And in that time, my life didn't just move forward, it unfolded. In March, I was promoted to head of engineering. The title sounded important, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that, for the first time, I wasn't the only woman in the room. I had a team now, a good one. They didn't just follow my lead, they trusted it. I could breathe, I could build, I could finally stop fighting to be taken seriously and just do the work. That same month, I met Elliot at a tech conference in Cambridge. He was presenting on design ethics and AI systems. Smart, a little awkward, with kind eyes, and a voice that didn't try to compete with the room. He offered to buy me a coffee after the panel. I said yes. Then we had dinner. Then we didn't stop. Elliot isn't loud. He doesn't fill silences with noise. He listens. Not just with his ears, but with something deeper. He doesn't try to fix me. He doesn't flinch when I talk about my family in past tense. He's not threatened by my salary, my ambition, or my history. He just sees me. And that's enough. I remember one night, early on, I told him the story of the Christmas with no present. I braced for the usual, pity, disbelief, the soft, "That's awful," people say when they don't know what else to do. But he just nodded. "That must have hurt," he said. And in those 4 words, I felt more seen than I ever had in 30 years of dinners, birthdays, and polite dismissals. Sarah still calls once a week. Not out of guilt. Not because anyone's making her, but because she wants to. We talk about everything: work, cooking, her dog's weird new obsession with cucumbers. Sometimes she tells me updates I didn't ask for. Nathan and Mia are still living at home. The startup never launched. The story going around is that I turned my back on the family, that I let success change me. Easier to believe than the truth. That I was never really theirs to lose. They tried to get in touch, through old teachers, distant cousins. Even a high school friend I hadn't spoken to in a decade messaged me on Facebook. "Hey, your mom says you're not answering. Everything okay?" I didn't reply. I don't owe them a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. A month ago, my mother left a voicemail. Her voice shook like she was trying to cry without crying. "Family is forever, Celine. We miss you. Come home." But here's what I've learned. Forever only applies when it's mutual, not when it's conditional, not when it only kicks in once you're successful, not when your love is weighed by how much you can offer. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned my phone off and made dinner with Elliot. We were learning Japanese together, something we picked up after booking a trip to Kyoto in the fall. We watch language videos over takeout and argue about which shrines to visit first. Sometimes he asks me what we'd name a dog if we got one. Sometimes he asks if I'd ever consider leaving Boston. And the thing is, those questions used to terrify me, because they meant letting go of everything that kept me safe. But now, they feel like breathing, because I finally understand something I never did before. Peace isn't found in their acceptance. It's found in my own. I no longer spend my days rehearsing conversations with ghosts. I don't scan old photos wondering what was missing. I know now. What was missing was me. Not the body I inhabited, not the silence I wore like a second skin, but me. The real me. The one who needed to be loved, not leveraged, seen, not sized up. And now that I've found her, I'm not giving her back. I've stopped mourning the family I never had. And I've started building one of my own. One rooted in choice, in respect, in love without prerequisites. That concludes Part 5, Liberation. Part 6, Healing. You don't need permission. If you had asked me a year ago what healing looked like, I would have told you it looked like peace. Stillness, closure. I thought healing was something that happened to you, like a scar fading on its own, or time working its quiet magic. But now I know the truth. Healing isn't peace at first. It's rage. It's mourning. It's setting fire to the blueprint of a life you never chose and watching it burn in your hands while everyone around you calls you selfish for lighting the match. Healing is messy. It's standing in your kitchen pouring a glass of wine and realizing you've deleted your mother's number for the 3rd time. It's checking your voicemail just to hear a voice that says, "We love you," and still not calling back. Because love without accountability is just control in disguise. It's walking through your apartment and remembering that every lamp, every chair, every spoon was bought by you, for you, with money you earned without anyone's help or permission. It's freedom. Not the kind that feels like a parade, but the quiet kind. The steady kind. The kind that wraps around your bones and says, you don't owe anyone your suffering just to make them comfortable. I know now that I don't need a family photo to prove I belonged. I don't need their applause. I don't need their guilt. I am not a success story to make them proud. I am my own story. And if you're listening, if you've been where I've been, sitting at a dinner table where no one makes space for you, watching your name get skipped over, your voice disappear beneath someone else's spotlight, please hear me when I say this. You are not invisible. You're just surrounded by people who refuse to look. And you do not have to stay. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to make yourself smaller just so someone else can feel big. You don't have to explain why your boundaries are uncomfortable. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to change your number, block their calls, and start over in a city that doesn't know your name yet. You are allowed to create a new definition of family, one built not on blood or duty, but on choice, respect, and love that shows up. I used to think forgiveness was the goal, that I'd know I was healed when I could sit across from them, smile and say, it's okay. But it's not okay. And that doesn't make me bitter. It makes me honest. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is not, I forgive you. It's, I'm done. Done waiting. Done explaining. Done bending yourself into pieces for people who'd still call you whole and walk away. This is what healing really looks like. It looks like building a life so beautiful, so yours, that the past feels like a place you once visited, not a home you're trying to get back to. It looks like Elliot leaning against my kitchen counter, asking if we should get a dog, and me saying yes without flinching. It looks like Sarah texting me a photo of her latest thrift find with the caption, "This gave me you energy." It looks like booking a trip to Japan, learning the language one awkward phrase at a time, dreaming of noodle shops and old shrines with someone who doesn't need me to earn his affection. It looks like waking up in a condo I bought with my own code. Drinking coffee from a mug that says, just because you're quiet doesn't mean you're weak. Smiling to myself because I finally believe it. So to the quiet ones, the forgotten ones, the ones who tried and tried and tried, I see you. You're not cold, you're not cruel, you're not ungrateful, you're healing. And sometimes healing looks like saying goodbye. Even if no one claps, even if no one follows, even if it breaks every rule you were taught. Walk away if you need to, run if you must, and build something better. Because you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be chosen. And you don't need anyone's permission to begin. If this story made you feel seen, please like, subscribe, and share with someone else who needs to hear it. You are not alone. And you are allowed to choose yourself. This story is for anyone who's ever been overlooked, ignored, or used by the people who were supposed to love them. If you've ever chosen peace over approval, this is for you. Don't forget to subscribe for more confessional family dramas that speak the truth behind the silence.